Welcome to Deals with Heels, where female entrepreneurs thrive. I'm Deborah.
And I'm Christina.
And we are your hosts. We're back in studio. So good to be here.
Yes. I'm excited for this one. I got all of her information last night and I was all reading over it. I'm so excited.
I'm really excited too. We have a great guest with us this morning. Today's guest is committed to inspiring people to take aligned action towards their wellness goals, making every action feel like their favorite obsession. Specializing in at-home Pilates workouts, the approach incorporates mindfulness by encouraging people to tune into their energy levels that nurture the well-being of the nervous system. Her expertise also extends into professional education with the Trauma Informed Pilates Approach and a comprehensive Pilates Mat Teacher Training program, enriching the field with her innovative and mindful approach. Through her work, Beth invites everyone to explore transformative power of movement and discover a path to wellness that resonates with mind, body, and spirit. Through her YouTube channel and online programs, Beth guides transformative Pilates sessions and can't wait for you to join her on the mat. Please, everyone, welcome to the program, Beth Sandlin.
Welcome.
Thanks so much.
We're so excited to have you.
So excited to be here. And I'm thrilled to be here too.
Fantastic. You have such an interesting bio. When I was reading through everything, one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with, for me, I had surgery in December and it worked and I'm feeling so much better, but I couldn't work out for about a month while I was in recovery, and I completely lost my discipline. Now I only work out when I'm motivated, which frankly isn't every day. It's only a couple times a week when we have that motivation to do it. Discipline is what keeps us going. What can we do to find that discipline back again? I can't flip the switch right now.
Well, I think there's a few things. That there's the real time constraints that we all have. And so once it's been off of our schedule for some time, it seems like, how do we even have time to carve out for that? So I always suggest starting really short is a great way, rather than thinking about always having to have an incredibly long workout, beginning with an incredibly short workout instead. Even 10 minutes, I have found, done more consistently is better than the once a week. And another element is shifting from what workouts are. So for many of us, we grew up and it was workouts are long, workouts are hard, they need to be at that higher level of intensity. And what we found, both for body and also nervous system and in alignment with motivation, sometimes turning down the dial of intensity is really helpful for motivation. So I always liken this to, we all have kind of different genres of music that we like, but most of us have a range. And sometimes that's high energy music where we just feel like getting up and dancing. And other times what we like to do with music is not what we're going to be doing on a day where maybe we're a little bit lower on energy. Sometimes it's suitable because it helps us be motivated to press play, and other times it's I think I prefer listening to a slow ballad, something a little bit more soothing. And this can go into if our stress levels are high or if a major incident has just happened. And so sometimes I like to think, if you're ever stuck with I don't want to work out, what would you press play on for music, for a song? And then how can we correlate that to workouts? So if you would press play on something that's a little bit more classic, slower, then maybe that's going to be a nourishing, slow session. If it's something higher energy, well, maybe it's that more traditional workout.
For me, I really identify with that because I was an athlete. And so for me, I feel like I need to be exerting. That's what really gets me going. And you're right, I don't always feel like doing that. But when I am working out, that's what I like. And that's what I don't always feel like I've had a workout if I have the slow, nurturing one. I wish I could find I meditate every day and I do other things. But when it comes to exercise, because I was a competitive athlete, I think that affects how I feel like I need to do it,
Yeah. I
See,
do
I'm the
know, and I've
total.
worked with a lot of people like you as well, who I come from that competitive athlete background. That is not me. I'm the opposite. I did not resonate with enjoying working out when I was young. And here it is, my life's work at this point. But for people who have that more athletic drive, sometimes I lean into the more well-rounded approach for working out, that when we stretch, when we do mobility exercises, which are slower, when we're moving with joint range of motion, which is slower, that is actually vital for longevity, for feeling good in our body, will help the strengthening workouts as well. And we now know it's one of the reasons why mobility is on the rise when it comes to working out, because a lot of people who have traditionally done the challenging push hard workouts, running, strength training, and that's all they've done, is all of a sudden they're not feeling good in their body. And this isn't only people who are older. This is like 20 and 30-year-olds. When the pendulum shifts, it's just not really beneficial. And this is really where Pilates shines, is that it can be an incredibly challenging workout, and yet an essence of it as well is mobility and working through full range of motion. And this just takes sometimes slowing down the practice a little bit. But I found that knowing sometimes it's for our nervous system, like focusing on breathing, and that could be really beneficial, or getting into a little bit of movement with that deep breathing is beneficial for both body and mind.
I totally agree with that. I tried so hard to be the one. I was never the athlete. Don't ask. I'm the one that has two left feet. But I have found through my journey that yoga and just taking those long walks and more just stretching my body and being more in tune with my body, especially from the inflammation standpoint, has really helped me, especially with my mindset and things like that, versus getting up at 4 a.m., going and doing that badass workout or whatever. And but I found that I have been more successful doing more of the stretching 2 times a day and the yoga in the morning, and really learning to breathe, because I forget to breathe.
Yeah, I like, kickboxing at 5:30 a.m. is I just really like that exertion. But man, you just have to be up for that. And I'm 57, and I think that I do stretch, but not nearly enough. So I definitely need to focus a little bit more on that. But there was something else about your bio that affected me, and I know it probably will Christina too, and that is that you're a cancer survivor. And my mom had lung cancer, and I was her main caregiver for about 5 years. She really beat the odds in survival. And one of the reasons I think that she did that is she was 85 when she passed away. She was about 80 when she was coming out of her treatment, and her scans were clear, but she was in a wheelchair because she was that old. The fatigue that comes with that treatment is just more than most people could recover from. And she had a great oncologist, and my mom was just a retired charge nurse. So if the doctor told her to do something, she was going to try to do it. And so she told her to just start walking. Just walk in the house as long as you can. And I lived in a house that had this kind of area we could make a lap in. And she said, just start walking until you walk for 15 minutes. And my mom got to where she could walk for 15 minutes. And she went to the beauty shop for the first time because she had hair again. And, but the real thing was, after she could walk for about 20 minutes, she told me, I want to walk into the doctor's office. I don't want to be in the wheelchair anymore. It was one of the most uplifting things I've ever seen. And it became very aware that once someone gets in that wheelchair and they're that old, they don't get out of it. Because the nurses cried. They were so overjoyed and so happy about it. But I think that was such a big thing. Doing that just little bit of exercise helped her get herself back to where she was living a fulfilling life again. She would not have been that way had she been stuck in that wheelchair. And you have you talk about how exercise and Pilates helped you in your survival journey from cancer and recovery, and I'm just really curious about it, and would like for you to kind of talk about how all that works, because I lived it. And Christina's had cancer in her family too, so we're both very passionate about that cause, and I'm just really curious about that portion of it, because man, it's hard to exercise when you feel like crap, let's face it. But it made meaningful difference in my mom's life. It really did.
It really can be hard. I'm so glad you brought up the real world example of your mom, because it goes to show that at any age, no matter what life has thrown us or what we've been through, we can start again. And that's really what research is showing us, and the example from your mother as well. And it's a matter of what makes sense right now. And it was first walk around your house for try to get up to 15 minutes. And who knows, maybe it was 5 in the beginning. But I experienced that as well, that sometimes
It definitely was.
Yeah, I mean, just a little teeny tiny bit. And so often people devalue that little teeny tiny bit, like that won't make a difference. And yet when we're coming from a phase of where we are deconditioned, whether it's because of cancer and cancer treatment, maybe we haven't worked out in many, many, many years, that the little bit goes much longer than a really challenging workout where maybe we're feeling sore for the next couple of days and we don't feel like doing anything, and it feels frustrating and humbling. So I can only attest to my personal experience with cancer, and I've worked with a lot of people who have had cancer over the years, but what it really did was reconnect me to what can I do, and when is the right time to rest and recover, focus solely on breathing. There was a point during my cancer journey where that's really all I could do. But rather than saying I can't, walk, I can't do the physical activity as it was before, it's okay, well, I can focus on deep breathing. And I love that shift to what can you do when it comes to movement. Always getting some medical clearance from your doctor is really recommended, because when we think about leaving the hospital or just getting back into workouts, our body may have shifted compared to where we were even a short while ago. So I got that doctor's recommendation and I went back to the gym, and I realized this is completely different. You would have think, losing 25 pounds in less than a month and all the treatment I went through would have been my big aha, but it wasn't until I couldn't do a push-up or I couldn't hold my nephew because I didn't have that physical strength and stamina that really was, oh, my life is different now. Because for me, when I was going through my primary cancer treatment, I was inpatient in the hospital for 30 days and I had 3 different rounds of that. And so my life was just, I didn't have the daily physical activity of getting up and making breakfast and those little forms of activity that many of us include into the day. But it was my motivation to change my life's path to pursue a degree in health education, and college is where I came to Pilates. And what Pilates did was it really helped me work even more optimally with my body. And there was a physical reason why sometimes we would do different variations, to refine how we were moving or to get more benefits. And yes, on lower energy days when I was still undergoing cancer treatment, I would scale back my Pilates workouts. But it wasn't until I learned more about the nervous system that I really took into consideration, well, sometimes the reason why we lack motivation to do that higher intensity workout is, yes, maybe there are physical considerations, but there are so many other things swirling around in our life besides just a good workout. We have life's commitments and other people are relying on us, that sometimes that's the reason why we want to adjust the dial of intensity.
For my mom, I made a deal with her that for as long as she would walk, I would do abdominal exercises. And let me tell you, 20 minutes of abdominal exercises is brutal. But I've had back surgery and over 20 years ago, but one of the keys for me having that ongoing health and keeping my back healthy is to have a tight core. And mom being sick, I had kind of let that go as well. And so, yeah, it was rough. I think it was harder for me than it was her doing the abdominals, but it helped her, knowing that when she came around, here I was doing my sit-ups or crunches or knee lifts or whatever it was I was doing. She had to come around to see me. And man, I tell you, that's so tiring to do that much of it.
So when you talk about the mind, the body, and the spirit, I relate to that a lot. My husband, 29 surgeries, was not supposed to live till 40, all the things, and the gym pretty well saved his life. And from a trauma standpoint, the trauma that, regardless of cancer, some other kind
PTSD.
of PTSD, childhood trauma, do you feel that because I personally do feel that there's a direct correlation between the mind and in freeze and in the body of basically the traumas that we have. How am I trying to say
They
this?
affect you physically.
Yes, and I feel that they do so much of the time. And they saying you can't do this, or just like my grandma when she was going through stage 4 ovarian cancer. I mean, this woman, of course, her mind kept her. I truly felt her mind kept her going because she was up. She was like, I'm not getting in a wheelchair. I mean, leaving the hospital. So, how do you go about that when it comes to the traumas inside our bodies that we deal with?
I think it's first having an understanding, whereas in the past it was just keep pushing through. We don't talk about that. We ignore it. Even for myself, I had cancer and I had it when I was 20. So it was many years ago, over 25 years ago now. And it was, you're a cancer survivor. That's amazing. You're doing so great. Look at you. You're going back to school. You're working out again. And yet there were other things going on in my body that I didn't realize were part of that trauma experience. And it wasn't until I learned more about that it was a great understanding. Oh, that's when I went back in. Many years later, I sat in the waiting room and just started crying, or I would be in the mall and wash my hands with soap, and it was the same soap smell in the hospital, and that just brought back a flood of memories. And once I had that understanding, it's not that immediately that process stopped, but it gave me a greater language in which to accept and not try to push that away, and also say, but you are not there right now. You're in a different place, and how to work with it more optimally. And that really was transformative for myself. For other people, it may be something else. It may be more in the body, like stuck movement patterns, extra tightness. On the opposite end of the spectrum, some people go into more of disassociation or a collapse response where the heart rate lowers and there's more of a tuning out of the external world. And so I found that really understanding the range in which we can respond to, yes, a one-time event or a repeated event, and how that trains our response then to everyday life occurrences can be really helpful of how to work optimally with the body. And speaking of this range, for some people, they will have that more drive and push through. I'm going to keep pushing through with my workouts, even when their doctor says, you've been running for a really long time now and your knee joints they're starting to give out. You need to try something else. But it's not so much that they want the workouts because it feels good for their nervous system. That's their state, and it's more of that drive state. For other people, it may be the opposite, where they don't want to move their bodies in that way. That intensity feels uncomfortable. And it's this balance of knowing that we all have kind of our own set point and recognizing when does it make sense to slowly titrate into something else. So for that high drive, I'm pushing through my workouts. There's a time and place for that. We know that's going to increase stamina and strength, and it can also help with bone density as well. That's amazing. But when does it make sense to scale that back? And for someone else, maybe who resonates more with stretching and maybe a meditation practice, or there's many people, let's also be realistic here, who aren't moving their bodies at all. How can we slowly start maybe getting a little bit more intensity in there so that we honor where we physically are in the body and are able to make adjustments rather than going from 0 to 100 right away? Well, we're just going to turn on the car and go into drive and slowly go through the neighborhood.
I was reading recently that they've discovered that your muscles, when you exert them, excrete different hormones and chemicals that help your mental and emotional well-being. Not just like, everyone always says that exercise releases that feel-good chemical, but specifically your muscles release some too, not just your brain from doing it. Can you expand on that any? I can't remember the article and everything, all the details specifically, but what you said reminded me of that how movement is so important in our own mental well-being, and they are learning so much more scientifically about why.
Exactly. And this is where the research is really exciting and validating for what so many people who have had more consistent workout program or exercise routine have known from a more just experiential, intuitive sense, is that it helps them with their focus and concentration, and also can reduce anxiety and depression. And I love this new research because for far too long, when it came to reducing anxiety or to working in alignment with the nervous system, for having a resilient nervous system, it's been just focus on gentle stretching and deep breathing. And that, quite honestly, doesn't work for everyone. And it's not always appropriate. So as an example, say that the classic sympathetic response is fight flight. We are running away from a lion, and I run up alongside next to you and say, you know what, right now would be a really great time to pause and take a deep breath. Well, you would probably not even hear me because all your energy is trying to get away from the lion, and it's not the appropriate situation to have that pause. You want to complete that response. And so that's one of the reasons why working out and in a more vigorous way, it can be so beneficial, because it allows that sympathetic response to complete. And so depending upon the type of workout that someone's moving with, it can engage the parasympathetic down regulating response. And when I say workout, this can mean anything from meditation all the way to stretching. And then on the opposite end, the more vigorous workouts that we classically think when workouts, heart rate increases, we're sweating, our muscles are really engaged. That's an energizing response that is used not only for vigorous exercise, but as part of the classic trauma response of fight or flight that's talked about a lot. What we know is when we match the workouts that's beneficial in just the right amount. So this is not every day do we need to run, or not every day do we even need to stretch, depending upon our goals for our nervous system and also goals for our physical health, that both ends of the spectrum can actually help not only physical body, but mental well-being. Anxiety, depression also increases concentration because the prefrontal cortex starts getting stronger. And that's amazing. It's like, yes, finally, we have more than just the physical benefits of why we should be working out. And for all of us, well, most of us, I'm assuming, who are tuning into this podcast are entrepreneurs or working in some way, this extra focus is incredibly helpful. And to think if we actually take time away from our work day, even 20 minutes, that can actually help us be more productive and feel better at the end of the day. Well, maybe that's our reason why we want to lean in to moving our bodies.
We're getting closer to the end of the show, and I would be remiss not to talk about what a great entrepreneur you have. You've built a very successful Pilates business. Trifecta Pilates, I think, is the name. And if you check out her stuff, you'll find she has a very large social media following. I know that a lot of our listeners struggle to grow their social media. And can you talk to them and us about what helped you grow your following?
I think it's just a combination of being consistent but not constant. And I want to bring that up because right now I'm in a stage where I'm not posting very frequently. I have a lot going on besides social media for the business. Personally, it's like year-end activities, and so I'm not as constant there right now. but I know that I'm going to come back to that and thinking about what I'm doing to help serve other people. So it's not just always promotion of the membership or the professional development, but exercises that I post for free on YouTube, other elements of physical fitness. There's a personal insight sometimes that some people really connect with, because when we think about the connection that people have when they come in the Pilates studio, usually what happens is over the course of time, we get to know the Pilates teacher a little bit better. They know more about us. And sometimes in the virtual platform, we forget about that it's about connection at the end of the day. And in my case, not just about another good workout, but how we're resonating with people. And I'll say the number one thing that people have told me is, I just like that you're real. I've had that said to me so many different ways. I'm like, I don't know how to be any other way but real and authentic. And when we just think, okay, how can we serve other people? And sometimes what can be helpful is, what do we feel like is missing from maybe our the environment that we're in? So I'm in the wellness environment, specifically Pilates. So what message is missing? And for me, a major element in the beginning that was missing was, it's not always about that challenging, really long workout. So when you go to my YouTube channel, when you go to Instagram, yes, you'll see, more challenging classes, but then there's also the opposite of very somatic routines where they're much slower. And having that wide range, I have found, has been really helpful. So I encourage people to just take a moment and ask, what value do I specifically bring? And connecting with that authenticity can be really helpful.
Authenticity, back to it, right?
Back to it. That's why this season's all about becoming unstoppable, because it is being your truest form of self.
It is. It is. We are really, that's the theme of this season, is becoming unstoppable. All of those aspects, not just your business, but to be truly unstoppable in your business, you have to have that personal feeling of unstoppable too. And I definitely think that exercise, and I've done Pilates before. I enjoy calisthenics and things like that too. So I relate a little bit to Pilates, but I think that's such a critical element, just the physical aspect of it, to becoming unstoppable, don't you?
I really do, because it just helps us stay in a place in which we have more energy and vitality. And that's something with workouts, whether it's yoga class, Pilates, or the more kickboxing class that you were talking about, that when we are working out in just the right way for ourselves and our goals, it actually gives us energy, doesn't deplete us. And that's something that can be really helpful. If after a workout, you're feeling just depleted, that's different than, oh my gosh, I just did a very challenging strengthening session and my muscles are feeling a little bit tired. But depleted from an energetic standpoint is something that we can easily do with workouts. And that way, we don't feel motivated to work out the next day. And that way we feel like it's negatively impacting what we're doing for our business and for our life. And so that means that sometimes we need to adjust the dial of intensity a little bit. And that's a check-in point that I always like people to just pause. How are you feeling before your workout, during, and after? And at first people are like, why are you having me do this? And just this week, someone wrote me a message saying, I never used to just pause for a few minutes after my workout just to take a few deep breaths. And now I do it every single time. It's been so incredibly helpful to really assess how that workout experience was. And what it does is it gives them more tools and insight into, okay, well, next time, do I feel like that challenging workout, or is it going to be something a little bit more down-regulating for the nervous system and working on different elements of physical conditioning? And for a lot of people who have ignored that in the past, what they found is they're more motivated to move their body. They're getting more benefits off of the Pilates mat through their everyday life, whether it's with business or connecting with family. And I know for me, and I'm sure for a lot of your listeners as well, that it's really the connection of family or those closest to us, loved ones, why we do what we do. And if at the end of the workday, we are just exhausted and we're not in a place where we can have that beautiful connection with them as well, then probably there's something that's a little bit out of alignment. And for me, that was actually my shift of one of the reasons why I wanted to shift into entrepreneurship, because I felt like my traditional 8 to 5 job was no longer serving me personally, nor my family anymore. And so I always keep that at the forefront of my mind of doing business, not only because it's personally fulfilling, but it's a great example for my kids, and also so I can be there more for them, have more autonomy to do that.
I love that.
I do too.
Love that.
We have come to the end of our time.
Yes.
And we're so grateful that you were able to join us as a guest, and you had such fantastic information for us and for our audience. If our audience wants to connect more with you and participate in your online workouts, what's the best way for them to reach you?
The best way is to go to trifectapilates.com, where you can just check out everything from the YouTube channel to the membership and app, and also professional development. It's kind of where everything is clearly identified and labeled.
Fantastic.
Well, look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We are so excited to see this episode. And
if all of you out there tuning in to us would like to check out Beth's website, you'll find a link to that in our show notes, along with a link to Christina and I's businesses as well.
Yes.
And
we're out.
We're out.